Hey, watch. But it was too late. Jackson Decker's roller slipped from his grip and flew straight across the sidewalk in a slow-motion arc, landing right on the sleeve of a crisp, white coat. He froze. The woman turned, her eyes wide in disbelief as she stared at the bright streak of blue paint now smeared across her shoulder. Her mouth opened, then shut again, like she couldn't even find the words. "I am so sorry," Jackson rushed, already pulling the rag from his back pocket. "I didn't mean to, please, just don't move, I'll fix it, I can fix it." He dropped to one knee in front of her right there on the sidewalk, blotting at the paint like a man possessed. The sleeve of her coat was silk. Expensive. He'd ruined it. "Sir," she began, but he kept dabbing, frantic. "Don't sue me," he muttered, half joking, half terrified. "I'm just trying to make a living." Despite herself, the woman let out a short laugh. "I wasn't going to sue you." He looked up, finally meeting her face. For a second, he forgot how to breathe. She was stunning. Dark curls framed her face, and her eyes sharp, intelligent, amused were the kind that saw right through you. She wore heels that probably cost more than his rent, and carried a bag he only recognized because his daughter once pointed it out in a magazine. "Still," he said, standing, "I owe you a new coat. Or, at least, a dry cleaning bill." She tilted her head. "You're a painter?"
"Yeah.
"Houses, mostly. I was doing the trim on that brownstone across the street." He nodded behind him, where a ladder leaned against the building. "You've got paint on your cheek," she said softly. Jackson rubbed at his face, flustered. "Yeah, that tracks." She glanced at her watch, then back at him. "What's your name?" He blinked. "Jackson. Jackson Decker."
I'm Bianca. Bianca Rhodes."
She extended her hand. Surprised, he shook it. "Well, Jackson Decker," she said, "you've got a good hand for detail. You might have just saved this coat." He gave a sheepish smile. "Glad to hear it." Then, before he could say anything else, a small voice called from across the street. "Daddy." A curly-haired little girl in red sneakers came bounding across the sidewalk, holding a juice box and dragging her tiny backpack. Jackson bent down just in time to catch her mid-jump. "Hey, monkey. You finished your reading time early." "The lady gave me extra crackers," she said proudly, then glanced at Bianca. "Who's that?" Jackson hesitated. "This is Miss Bianca. I accidentally painted her." Bianca laughed again, genuine this time. "Nice to meet you, monkey." "I'm Maisie," the girl corrected with a matter-of-fact nod. Bianca crouched to meet her at eye level. "Maisie's a beautiful name." Maisie leaned into Jackson's shoulder. "Is she your friend?" Jackson's ears turned pink. "She's someone I just met." Bianca stood again, her gaze lingering on the little girl. "Well, now that I've been properly introduced, I should go." "You sure you don't want me to pay for the coat?" he asked. She smiled. "I think you've done enough damage control for today." He watched as she strode away, heels clicking against the pavement, a woman completely out of his league. He looked down at Maisie, who was chewing the end of her straw. "Think I just met the fanciest person I've ever seen." Maisie nodded. She smelled like flowers and money. Jackson chuckled.
"Yeah."
Yeah, she did. Bianca didn't stop thinking about him, which was ridiculous. She was Bianca Rhodes, CEO of Rhodes & Company, one of the fastest-growing real estate development firms in the city. Her schedule was packed with board meetings, investor calls, and billion-dollar deals. She dated men with tailored suits and private equity portfolios, not house painters who wore jeans stained with primer. But Jackson Decker's face kept flashing through her mind. The way he dropped to his knees to clean her coat, the way he looked at his daughter with so much love and weariness and pride all at once. There was something about him that stuck. 3 days later, she walked into a neighborhood cafe for her usual morning espresso and nearly tripped over him. Literally. He was crouched by one of the tables, holding a paint color wheel and talking to the manager about repainting the interior. He looked up as she stepped in, startled. "Oh, hey. Hi." She smiled. "Hi. Didn't expect to see you here." "Same," she said, stepping around a mop bucket. "Are you working here too?" "Yeah. They want the place redone before the weekend rush. I offered a discount since it's a tight turnaround."
Bianca nodded.
"Fast and reliable. Good business." He shrugged. "Trying to be." Maisie popped out from behind the counter, munching on a muffin. "Miss Bianca." Bianca's heart did something weird. "Hey, Maisie." "She said I could have one for free, 'cause Daddy's painting," she said, crumbs tumbling from her lips. Jackson groaned. "We're gonna talk about bartering later, okay?"
Bianca laughed.
"She's a smart negotiator. I'm doomed when she's a teenager." Bianca hesitated, then said, "Would you both like to join me for breakfast?" He looked surprised. "Like, sit down and eat with you?" "Well, I was going to eat alone, but I think I'd prefer company." Maisie cheered. "Can I get pancakes?" Bianca grinned. "I'll allow it." They sat in a booth by the window, and for the next 40 minutes, Jackson forgot about his debt, his overdrawn bank account, and the broken washing machine in his apartment. He just listened to Bianca talk about her favorite childhood books and watched her laugh at Maisie's jokes. He didn't know who she really was, how powerful, how rich, how far out of his world she lived. All he knew was that he liked her. A lot. And Bianca, well, she hadn't smiled this much in months. As they walked out of the cafe, she looked at him and said, "I'd like to see you again." Jackson blinked. "Really? Really?" He shifted on his feet. I don't have a lot of time. Between painting and Maisie, and I don't care about that," Bianca interrupted gently. "I just want to know more about you." Maisie tugged on Jackson's hand. "Daddy, can Miss Bianca come to the park with us?" Bianca raised an eyebrow. "Can I?" Jackson looked between them, his daughter, smiling up at him, and the woman who'd walked into his life by accident and turned it upside down in less than a week.
"Sure," he said.
"Let's go to the park." Bianca adjusted the strap of her handbag as she walked beside Jackson through the park's dappled shade. The late morning sun filtered through the trees in golden streaks, warming the cobblestone path where Maisie skipped ahead, balancing along the edge like it was a tightrope. "No sidewalks in your line of work?" Bianca asked, glancing at his work boots. "Plenty," Jackson replied, stretching his arms behind his back. "But they're usually cracked or covered in dust. This one feels like a vacation." She smiled faintly. "You don't seem like the vacation type." "I'm not. But I'd make an exception for this," he said, nodding toward the carousel music drifting in from the other side of the park. Maisie twirled to a stop. "Can I go on the horses?" Jackson tugged out his wallet with a resigned sigh. "Do you take payments in peanut butter sandwiches?" Bianca handed a crisp bill to the ride operator before he could say anything else. "My treat." He frowned. "You didn't have to. I wanted to. Let her have fun." Maisie was already climbing onto the tallest painted horse, waving at them as the ride began to spin. Jackson leaned on the railing, arms crossed. "You do that a lot?" "What?" "Buy things without blinking." She glanced sideways. "Sometimes. When it feels right." He didn't respond immediately. His gaze followed Maisie's bobbing curls as the carousel turned. "I work hard to make rent and keep her fed. I don't have much room for feels right." Bianca's tone softened. "How long have you been on your own?" "Since Maisie was 4. Her mom left. No forwarding address."
"No billet."
She stayed quiet, letting the weight of that settle. "I didn't grow up with much," he continued. "So I figured I could either fall apart or figure it out. And you figured it out." "Still figuring," he said with a dry laugh. "She wants ballet lessons." "I'm still Googling how to build a bar out of PVC pipe." Bianca turned to face him fully. "I could help with that." No offense, but I don't think you've ever built anything out of PVC in your life. I meant the ballet lessons, Jackson. He stiffened. I'm not a charity case. She stepped back slightly. That's not how I see you. How do you see me then? Bianca held his gaze. Like someone who doesn't take shortcuts. Who shows up even when it's hard. Who makes peanut butter sandwiches and still shows up early to paint a cafe before sunrise. That's not weakness. The carousel slowed. Maisie jumped down and ran to them, breathless. Can we get ice cream? Jackson's tension eased as he lifted her into his arms. I thought you wanted pancakes this morning. I changed my mind.
Bianca laughed.
I know a place. Come on. They walked to a small stand tucked behind the conservatory. Bianca ordered pistachio, Maisie chose bubblegum, and Jackson went with plain vanilla. Between bites, Maisie licked a drip off her wrist. What do you do, Miss Bianca?
Bianca hesitated.
I work in real estate. That's boring, Maisie announced.
Bianca laughed.
It can be. Jackson raised an eyebrow. You don't strike me as someone who does boring. She looked at him over her cone. You'd be surprised. He watched her for a beat. So, real estate. What kind? The kind that changes skylines. His brow furrowed. That sounds vague. Massive. She shrugged. Depends on the day. Maisie tugged at Jackson's sleeve. Can we go see the ducks?
5 more minutes, he said.
Bianca wiped a napkin along Maisie's chin. You know, I used to think ducks were boring too. Until one bit me during a school trip. Maisie's eyes widened. It bit you? Right on the hand. I cried for an hour. My brother told everyone I lost a finger. Jackson chuckled. You have a brother? Had. Bianca said softly. He passed a few years ago. I'm sorry. She nodded once, quickly. He was the only one who ever made me laugh when I didn't want to. Maisie looked between them. Do grown-ups cry too? Bianca crouched to meet her eyes. All the time. We just get better at hiding it. After they fed the ducks, the trio wandered past the rose garden, where Bianca paused to admire a cluster of yellow blooms. Jackson noticed the way her fingers hovered just above the petals, like she didn't want to disturb them. You're different than I expected, he said. Because I wear heels and carry overpriced bags. Because you say yes to pancakes and duck bites when you could be signing deals in glass towers. Bianca tilted her head. Maybe I'm tired of glass towers. He studied her face. You don't seem like someone who gets tired of anything. She glanced down. Maybe I'm better at pretending than I thought. They found a bench under a linden tree. Maisie dozed against Jackson's side, ice cream forgotten. Bianca reached over, brushing a stray leaf from the girl's curls. She trusts you, she said quietly. I hope so. She's lucky. Jackson looked at her.
You don't know me that well.
I know what I see. He hesitated. What do you want out of this? She turned to him, eyes steady. I don't know yet, but I want to find out. He looked down at Maisie, who stirred in her sleep. I don't have room for games. Neither do I. The silence stretched between them, full of possibilities and unspoken things. Then Bianca stood. I should head back. He rose too, careful not to wake Maisie. Thanks for today. Thank you, she said, then added, would you ever let someone help you? He didn't answer right away. I'd have to believe they weren't just passing through. Bianca nodded. Then maybe let me prove I'm not. She turned and walked away, heels silent on the path this time. Jackson watched her go, heart pounding for reasons he didn't understand yet. Maisie stirred again, blinking awake. Is she coming back? He looked down at his daughter, then back at the path where Bianca had disappeared. I think so, he said. I really think she might. The knock came just after 8, when Jackson was rinsing paintbrushes in the kitchen sink and Maisie was curled up on the couch with a notepad, drawing ballerinas with big hair and bows. He wiped his hands on a dish towel, Who'd knock at this hour? Maisie peeked up. Maybe it's Miss Bianca. Jackson's heart did a strange twist in his chest. He hadn't told Bianca where he lived. At least, he didn't think he had. But when he opened the door, there she stood. She didn't have on heels this time. Just sneakers, jeans, and a soft navy sweater that made her look almost ordinary, if not for the way she held herself like the world bent around her decisions. I brought something, she said, holding up a plain white paper bag. Jackson stepped aside, stunned.
Come in.
Bianca entered, glancing around the small apartment. It was tidy but worn-peeling linoleum, a sagging couch, and a kitchen table he'd reinforced with extra screws. Maisie scrambled up. You found us.
Bianca smiled.
I did. Your dad mentioned the cafe's name on the phone last week, and I called in a favor with the manager. Jackson closed the door behind her. You tracked me down from a cafe receipt? I'm resourceful, she said, handing him the bag. These are from a bakery I invest in. The lemon poppy seed ones are their best. Maisie was already tugging it open. They smell fancy. Bianca crouched beside her. They taste like sunshine. Jackson set the bag on the table. You didn't have to come all the way here. I know, she said, standing again. But I wanted to see where you live. Who you are when you're not wiping paint off strangers in the street. He leaned on the counter, arms crossed. And it's honest, she said simply. It's real. Maisie bit into a muffin and offered the rest to Bianca. You can have half. Bianca accepted it with a nod of gratitude. Thank you, sweetheart. Jackson watched them, trying to reconcile the image of this woman, the sharp, elegant stranger from that first day, with the one now crouched on his threadbare rug, sharing a muffin with his daughter. He gestured to the kettle. Do you want tea? Yes, please. As he filled the kettle, she wandered to the bookshelf in the corner, scanning the titles. You like noir? She asked, pulling one down. Helps me fall asleep. Sam Spade and Murder Trials. Not exactly relaxing. I don't do bubble baths and scented candles. She turned back to face him.
Ido.
He chuckled. Of course you do. She leaned against the wall. You think I'm predictable? I think you're unexpected. Her eyes held his. That's better. The kettle whistled. He poured 2 mugs and handed her one. Bianca accepted it, then nodded toward the small canvas propped beside the fridge, an unfinished painting of a city skyline at dusk. You did that. He glanced at it.
Yeah.
I paint for work, but sometimes I try to do something that doesn't pay the bills. It's beautiful. Why didn't you finish it?
Time.
Energy. Sometimes I think I forget how. She traced the rim of the mug with her thumb. Do you ever want something more? He hesitated. I used to think about it. Back when I had the freedom to want stupid things. Like what? Like running a small gallery. Or restoring old buildings. Or just not worrying if the check clears. She stepped closer. That's not stupid. Feels like it when your kid needs new shoes. Bianca looked around again at the stack of school books on the table, the ballet slippers drying near the heater, the grocery list pinned with a magnet on the fridge. You're doing everything, she said quietly. I try. Maisie climbed into her lap without warning, arms circling her neck. You smell like vanilla. Bianca froze for half a second, then wrapped an arm around the little girl's back. I'll take that as a compliment. Jackson watched, heart clenching in a way he didn't expect. She doesn't usually do that. Bianca looked at him. I won't break. He rubbed the back of his neck. I don't know how to do this. Whatever this is. Neither do I, she admitted. But I'm not here for fling, Jackson. I'm not trying to pass through. He studied her. That's a big thing to say in a small apartment. I don't say things I don't mean. Maisie yawned, still clinging to her neck. Jackson stepped forward. She should get to bed. Bianca eased her back gently. Of course. Maisie blinked up at her. Will you come again? Bianca brushed a curl from her cheek. If your dad lets me. Maisie turned to Jackson, already half asleep. Say yes. He looked at them, his daughter, half relaxed in a stranger's warmth, and the woman who had somehow crossed every line he'd drawn around his life. All without asking permission. Yeah, he said finally. You can come back. Bianca smiled. Then I will. He walked her to the door, the hallway dim. You didn't ask why I haven't looked you up yet. I figured you would when you were ready. His jaw tensed. I don't want to feel like I owe you. You don't. But if you ever want to know more about me, ask. I won't lie to you. He opened the door. Bianca. She turned at the threshold. Why are you doing this? Her voice was soft. Because I've spent years building towers and pushing people away. And then one day, I met a man who'd do anything to keep his daughter safe. And I realized I'd been lonely for a very long time. He didn't know what to say to that. So he just nodded. She stepped out into the hallway. Good night, Jackson. Good night. He closed the door and leaned his forehead against it for a long moment, listening to the sound of her footsteps fading down the stairs. Then he turned back toward the small apartment, where his daughter had already fallen asleep on the couch, and the half-finished painting waited in the corner. The invitation arrived in a thick ivory envelope with no return address, only Jackson's name written in precise, looping script. It sat untouched on his counter for hours while he cleaned brushes, folded laundry, and tried not to stare at it like it might explode. He didn't open it until Maisie asked, Is that for Miss Bianca? He peeled back the flap and pulled out a single card, gold embossed letters spelling out Rhodes and Company. Annual Winter Gala formal attire required. He read it again, slower this time. It wasn't just an invitation to a party. It was a doorway into her world. Maisie leaned in. What's a gala? Jackson exhaled. A really, really fancy party. Are we going? He hesitated. It's not exactly a place for us, monkey. She frowned, then declared, I think she wants us there. That was the problem. 2 days later, Jackson stood in front of the only mirror in their apartment, tugging at the collar of a suit that didn't belong to him. It had been loaned to him by a friend who did catering gigs. The sleeves were a little short and the shoes pinched, but it was the best he could do. Maisie emerged from the bedroom in a pale blue dress they'd found on clearance at a thrift store. He'd sewn a missing button himself. Her curls were pinned back with tiny silver clips that caught the light every time she moved. You look like a princess, he said. She beamed. You look like a movie star. He glanced at the mirror. Let's hope they don't expect me to act like one. The gala was held in a glass-walled building downtown that towered above the skyline. Valets moved in a seamless rhythm, ushering in luxury cars and guests in tuxedos and gowns that shimmered under the entrance lights. Jackson stepped out of the cab with Maisie at his side, clutching her small hand like it was the only thing keeping him grounded. Inside, the room glowed with soft golden light, chandeliers glittering above a sea of silk and champagne. Music floated through the air, refined and delicate, and servers moved like dancers between elegantly set tables. Dad, Maisie whispered, this place smells like new money and chocolate. He nearly choked. You're not wrong. Bianca appeared at the top of the marble staircase, and the crowd almost parted as she descended. Her gown was deep sapphire, the fabric catching the light like midnight waves. But it wasn't the dress or the way people turned to look at her that made Jackson's breath catch. It was the way her eyes scanned the room until they landed on him and softened. She crossed the floor without hesitation. I wasn't sure you'd come, she said. I wasn't sure either, he admitted. I don't exactly blend in. You weren't invited to blend in, she said, then looked down at Maisie. And you are the most beautiful guest here. Maisie twirled. I have pockets.
Bianca laughed.
That's the best kind of dress. Jackson cleared his throat. This is a lot. I know, she said. but I wanted you to see it. This is the world I've built, and I want you to know you're welcome in it." He glanced around. "These people don't matter," she cut in. "Not like you do." A man approached, tall and polished, with a glass of champagne balanced perfectly in one hand. "Bianca, the mayor's ready for your speech." She nodded. "Give me a minute." The man turned without comment, but not before giving Jackson a once-over that made his jaw tighten. Bianca turned back to him. "Come with me. I want you to see something first." She led him up a side staircase to a balcony that overlooked the ballroom. From above, the party looked like a snow globe come to life, glamorous and untouchable. But up here it was quiet. "I built this company from nothing," she said softly. "Started in a studio apartment with no heat. I was 24 and terrified." He looked at her. "Why are you telling me this?" "Because I've spent years trying to become someone who didn't need anyone. And then you handed me a rag and apologized for ruining my coat like it was the end of the world. And somehow I haven't stopped thinking about you since." Jackson leaned on the railing. "I don't know how to fit into this. I fix things. I paint walls. I don't know what fork goes with what. I don't care about forks." He turned to her. "If this is a fairy tale, I don't want to be the guy who gets turned back into a pumpkin when the night's over." Bianca stepped closer. "Then don't leave at midnight." He searched her face. "You're serious about this?" "I am." He reached into his pocket and pulled out a small silver clip, the one from Maisie's hair that had fallen in the cap. He handed it to her. "I think this belongs to you." She took it, smiling. "I think I'm going to keep it." Below, the music shifted. A slow, elegant melody unfurled. Bianca extended a hand. "Dance with me." He hesitated. "I don't know the steps." "Then we'll make them up." They descended the stairs together, and the crowd turned again, but this time Jackson didn't care. He took her hand and pulled her close, her warmth grounding him more than any rhythm ever could. "Dad's dancing," Maisie whispered loudly from a table nearby. "With Miss Bianca." People laughed gently, but Bianca only smiled. "She's going to be a great storyteller one day." "She already is," Jackson said. As the night wore on, Bianca gave her speech with Jackson and Maisie watching from the edge of the room. She spoke about building from nothing, about risk and resilience, and about the importance of choosing what truly matters. Afterward, someone offered Jackson a job restoring an old mansion on the edge of the city. Another handed him a business card for a gallery looking for local artists. He stood there, stunned, while Bianca chatted with investors and CEOs and always managed to glance back at him, like he was the only person who mattered. When the night ended and the lights dimmed, she walked to him and said, "Come home with me." He looked to Maisie, asleep in a chair with her head resting on a folded blazer. "Both of you," she added. "I want to build something real now. Not towers. A life." Jackson didn't answer with words. He just reached out and laced his fingers through hers. And when they walked out into the night together, her heels in one hand, Maisie curled in his arms, and the city stretching wide before them, it didn't feel like a dream. It felt like coming home. Jackson adjusted the collar of his button-down shirt, glancing at his reflection in the mirror of Bianca's guest bathroom. The apartment was twice the size of his own and perched above the city, like it owned the skyline, but she hadn't said a word about it when she invited them in. She'd simply handed him a spare key and made space in her closet for Maisie's tiny sneakers. He stepped into the hallway, catching the faint sound of laughter from the kitchen. Maisie sat on the counter, legs swinging freely while Bianca stirred something in a saucepan, her sleeves rolled up and her hair clipped back. "You sure you know what you're doing?" Jackson asked, leaning on the doorframe. Bianca didn't look up. "I followed the recipe."
Twice.
"I even Googled what reduce really means." "That's advanced." Maisie licked a spoon. "It's good. It tastes like warm cheese." "That's because it is cheese," Bianca said, reaching for a ladle. Jackson crossed the kitchen and set 3 plates on the table. I didn't know you cooked. I don't usually, she said, pouring the sauce over a pan of pasta. But I figured if I was going to invite you two into my home, I might as well learn to feed you properly. Maisie hopped down from the counter and carried her plate to the table. Is this still your house, or is it ours now? Bianca blinked, caught off guard. Do you want it to be ours? Maisie nodded, serious. Because Daddy keeps showing up in your bed, and I think that means we live here now. Jackson nearly dropped his fork. Bianca laughed, covering her mouth with her hand. Well, that settles it. Later that night, after Maisie had fallen asleep with her stuffed rabbit tucked under one arm and a nightlight casting slow-moving stars across her borrowed ceiling, Jackson stepped out onto the balcony where Bianca stood barefoot, arms folded against the railing. You're quiet, she said without turning. Just thinking, he replied, joining her. About everything that's changed in the last few weeks. She glanced at him. Too fast. He shook his head. Not fast enough. I didn't know how much I needed this until I had it. She leaned into his side, her voice low. I've been offered a project in Lisbon. A full restoration of a historic district. It's a year-long contract. They want me to relocate. His chest tightened. You're going? I told him I'd consider it if I could bring my family. He studied her. You'd move just like that?
No, she said.
I'd build something new. With you. With Maisie. If you'd want that. He stared out at the lights below, the city humming quietly beneath them. Maisie's never been on a plane. She'll love it. He looked at her. What if I'm not cut out for it? What if I can't keep up with all of this? Bianca took his hand. You've been surviving on your own for years.
I'm not asking you to change.
I'm asking you to let someone stand beside you. He exhaled slowly. Then yeah, let's do it. She grinned. You sure? I've never been more sure of anything. They kissed beneath the flickering city lights, a slow, unhurried promise of everything to come. 3 months later, the air smelled like sea salt and sun-warmed cobblestones. Jackson adjusted the easel on the terrace of their new home, a renovated flat with arched windows and terracotta tiles. Bianca was on a video call inside, speaking rapid Portuguese with an architect, while Maisie arranged shells in order of size on the patio. Daddy, she said, holding up a conch. This one sounds like the ocean. He crouched beside her. That's because it's been listening for a long time. Bianca stepped outside, barefoot, her hair windblown, and a soft linen dress skimming her knees. Dinner's almost ready. I tried that tomato stew again. Maisie groaned. Not the one with the weird fish? Bianca laughed. No fish. Just the good kind. Jackson stood and wrapped an arm around her waist. We should tell her. Bianca raised an eyebrow.
Now.
He nodded. She knelt beside Maisie. Sweetheart, remember how you asked if this was our house? Maisie nodded. You said yes. Well, Bianca said, glancing up at Jackson, we're going to make it even more official. Maisie's eyes widened. Are we getting a puppy? Jackson laughed. Not quite. We're getting married. Maisie gasped so loudly, the birds scattered from the balcony rail. Does that mean I get a dress too? Bianca nodded. A very twirly one. Maisie threw her arms around both of them. You're gonna be my real mom now. Bianca held her tightly. I already feel like I am. The wedding was small, held in a sun-drenched courtyard with vines climbing the stone walls and soft music playing under strings of lights. Maisie tossed petals ahead of them, her dress a swirl of pink tulle, while Jackson waited in a pale gray suit, eyes never leaving Bianca as she walked toward him. They exchanged vows in English and Portuguese, promising to build a life that was messy and beautiful and wholly theirs. When the officiant pronounced them married, Jackson kissed her like he'd been waiting his entire life for this moment. And maybe he had. Afterward, As the sun dipped toward the horizon and the courtyard filled with the clinking of glasses and bursts of laughter, Jackson lifted Maisie into his arms and whispered, "We did it, monkey." She kissed his cheek. "We're a real family now." Bianca joined them, resting her head on Jackson's shoulder. And for the first time in his life, Jackson Decker didn't feel like he was just surviving. He felt home. Forever.